Chief Keef, Lil Reese, all of the niggas pull up to New Jersey now.
Looks like all that
6ix9ine is catching up to all of that trash talk. Following his girlfriend's breakup in New York, startling video is going viral that purports to show Chief Keef was responsible for her death. Supporters claim it's retaliation for their long-running rivalry, and the issue is becoming worse. Let me explain. The shocking footage that made all the difference. The video that was just leaked online doesn't require any embellishment, so let's not spend any more time. There's no need to make it dramatic. Hip-hop has never seen a video clip as intense, unsettling, and, to be honest, as implausible as this. 1. Viral claims claim that film has emerged that seems to show Chief Keef, the legendary Chicago drillman, firing the gun that killed 6ix9ine's lover. This is not a hearsay from the tabloids. This isn't just another trolling ploy by 6ix9ine to gain influence. We're talking about a video that has caused the internet to go into overdrive, with admirers analyzing every frame, every pixel, and every second, saying it's the clearest evidence that Chief Keef finally lost it. The events preceding up to this tape almost exactly correspond with Chief Keef and 6ix9ine's years of animosity, contempt, and growing threats. How did we go from a silly internet troll with rainbow hair to a rivalry so deadly in life or death that one of the most controversial people in rap finds his girlfriend in the crosshairs? There was more to 6ix9ine and Chief Keef's feud than just music. It was deeply ingrained. It was intimate. Additionally, it was constantly on the verge of bloodshed. This was more than just rap sparring when 6ix9ine initially began barking at Chief Keef's camp. He targeted Sosa's relatives in ways that other Chicago rappers would never tolerate. He openly disrespected his mother. Even the hosts were taken aback as Everyday Struggle reported at the time that it was careless.
Host was stunned.
He said Chief Keef mom could suck my with his mother lips. Like, this getting a little bit out of hand.
It was reckless.
Culture recognized that it was a cry for revenge. Gunshots on music video sets, threats on Instagram Live, and reports of ambushes in New York were the forms of reprisal. At one time, it was even reported that Chief Keef had to immediately return to Los Angeles after being the target of a drive-by a few hours after landing in the city. This was no longer industry beef. Every fan was constantly checking their feed to see the battle unfold in real time and see who would survive. 6ix9ine was also not going to back down. He was stoking the flames, making fun of near-death experiences, reading the news, and even making fun of his own impending demise. That is the hubris of a man who believes he is immune to repercussions. Chief Keef was portrayed as the antagonist of this tale for many years. A generation of shooters were influenced by the ruthless drill rapper, the Chicago Danger, who was unable to escape the streets. 6ix9ine, on the other hand, portrayed the colorful court jester, the troll, who should not be taken seriously. However, the story drastically changes if this released footage is real. Sosa is suddenly more than simply drill's boogeyman. He ends up carrying out the largest clown in the culture. There is more to this than a rivalry between two rappers. This relates to hip-hop's hazy distinction between performance and reality. When does trolling become a death wish and cease to be amusement? And at what point does protecting your family, your name, or your set become a life sentence? Industry insiders had already warned that this very situation was unavoidable. DJ Academics explained it in terrifying detail during that
chilling detail.
I'm just saying that he plays a very, and I said this before, he plays a very, very dangerous game with how he's treating and eventually all it takes is one person.
6ix9ine did.
Chief Keef wasn't the only person 6ix9ine trolled. He made fun of the entire drill movement in Chicago. He made fun of gang affiliations. He challenged others to take action. He essentially made a target out of himself and everyone in his immediate vicinity by doing this, including the woman who may now be dead as a result of it.
On that same panel,
it's not gonna be a rapper, like no rapper is gonna, we're not gonna hear about some famous rapper shooting 6ix9ine or doing something to 6ix9ine. It's gonna be somebody that just wants to make a name for themselves.
The leak clip opens on a dark street corner, just as Wino warned. On the same panel, the video seems to have been taken from a bystander's phone because it is unsteady and grainy. From behind an automobile, a hazy figure emerges with a tight-fitting sweatshirt. Shots ring out a few seconds later. You don't want to fake the scream that comes next. It's uncooked. It's guttural. It's definitely real. And now for the portion that made Reddit detectives go crazy. Fans freeze-framed magnified in comparison to vintage images. The shooter's stooped forward lean, the way the arm expands. The characteristic dreadlocks falling out of the hood. The overwhelming conclusion. That's Sosa. For Chief Keef, street cred is more than simply branding. It is the foundation of who he is. It was humiliation on a worldwide scale to lose that. To be called insignificant by a rainbow-haired Brooklyn troll? This video's statement is more than just a retaliatory one. It serves as a reminder to the globe that Chief Keef is more than simply a remnant from the history and a reassertion of power. He remains untouchable, dangerous, and eager to go farther than anybody else. 6ix9ine himself wasn't the target. His girlfriend was the one. That decision wasn't made at random. Since nothing hurts more than taking away what someone loves, that decision was calculated. Proving that you can touch what's dearest to them is the loudest message you can convey. This was not about 6ix9ine's demise. The goal was to break him. The conspiracy theory web. The culture would have been ignited by the video alone. The events that followed, however, transformed this tale from a tragedy into a full-fledged conspiracy thriller. After the video leaked, the internet was inundated with outlandish accusations and theories.
Half-baked connections.
And what I'm seeing in the comments is where people were saying that it got something to do with 6ix9ine. How can you automatically just say that?
However,
Yet when you line
the image that appears when you align them side by side is more terrifying than anything we have ever seen. The most apparent question is, was the intended target actually 6ix9ine's girlfriend? The answer is no for a lot of fans. They think she was a piece in the bigger chess game between Chief Keef and 6ix9ine. Collateral damage. Users expressed in Reddit posts that the shooting appeared too neat and accurate, as if the shooter knew exactly where to be and when to fire. The girlfriend wasn't the one they came for, according to some. Simply put, she was at the wrong time and place. Others didn't believe it. They maintained that the girlfriend was always the objective, and that Chief Keef, or whoever was in control of the gun, intentionally pursued her in order to inflict the most severe harm on 6ix9ine, since she was his Achilles heel and shield. In the words of one conspiracy video, if you can't get the clown, you take away the laughter. Then there's the notion that says Chief Keef wasn't even the shooter. Analysts dissected the leaked video bit by frame. Some complained that Keef's build was not reflected in the silhouette. Others drew attention to irregularities in the gun itself, the stride, and the arm length that might have been a doppelganger. A hired shooter disguised himself as him. Consider the ramifications. The motivation would be very different if this had been constructed to resemble Chief Keef. No longer about retaliation. The goal is to ruin Chief Keef's reputation, accuse him of murder, and start a conflict that will engulf both sides. Rumors quickly began to connect the hit to other 6ix9ine enemies, including competitors from New York, gangs from Chicago, and even business leaders who may have wanted Tekashi to be quieted before his antics brought everyone down. There was more to this than a rivalry between two artists. Business agreements, relationships, and betrayals were all on the line in this powder keg. In addition to being impolite, 6ix9ine's trolling was expensive. He put tours, collaborations, and sponsorships at risk each time he made fun of someone. Relationships became liabilities because of him. Then comes the most sinister theory. What if 6ix9ine himself was behind this whole thing? This is the same man who once fabricated his own kidnapping narrative, making it so difficult for anyone to tell the truth from fiction. This is the theory. 6ix9ine was aware that his fame was waning. To ensure weeks of headlines, he fabricated the final evidence of his danger, the murder of his girlfriend, because he knew his adversaries were circling. That theory has a clear problem. Why jeopardize his loved one's life? Conspiracy theorists, however, contend that anything may be a fake if there is enough money, smoke, and mirrors. The rawness of that cry and the very real panic recorded in the video make it difficult to think this was just another stunt, even with the blood squibs, crisis actors, and shaky mobile phone film. A second, shorter, blurrier, and considerably more unsettling clip appeared. This follow-up video, which was freeze-framed and enhanced by amateur detectives online, seems to capture the moments following a figure thought to be Chief Keef leaving the scene and throwing something metallic onto the ground. In contrast to the first video, which showed the gunshot itself, it appears disturbingly similar to a pendant. Not any pendant, though. For years, Keef's group has been spotted wearing a chain that looks like one of the Glory Boys Entertainment GBE pieces. Was this an intentional piece of evidence left behind to establish authorship, a calling card, or a signature? Was that a plant instead? A plot to implicate Sosa while allowing someone else to suffer the consequences? Some started criticizing the industry as a whole. The hypothesis was that 6ix9ine had been too unstable, dangerous, and unmanageable. Not only were his antics garnering media attention, they were alienating police enforcement, boardrooms, and corporations who didn't want to be associated with a musician who was frequently implicated in gang warfare, shootings, and kidnappings. What better way to accomplish two goals at once than to orchestrate a catastrophe that deprives him of his power and simultaneously discredits Chief Keef? 6ix9ine is simpler to manage when he is destabilized. Keef loses his influence on a new generation of rappers after being accused of murder. The truth is irrelevant to the machine. Stability is important to it. The most terrifying thought was that perhaps the girlfriend wasn't merely a victim because she might have too much knowledge. Tekashi was concealing new information from the public. Powerful people wanted new information about betrayals, transactions, and money to be hidden. Her passing wasn't merely a message to 6ix9ine. If that's accurate, the task was one of cleanup. However, the truth remains regardless of whether you think she was a purposeful target, collateral damage, or something far more complex. There is a video, it is visible, and depicts a person pulling the trigger. Why? Have the authorities failed to issue a clear statement? How come no one has been taken into custody? Why do we not have answers, but only silence, conjecture, and paranoia? Some claim that this is due to the inconclusive nature of the evidence. Some people think that the reason law enforcement doesn't want to solve this is because revealing the truth will bring too many people, organizations, and shady transactions to light. The truth is concealed when it poses a danger to authority, repercussions, and cultural reconciliation. The footage that was leaked was startling. The plots were terrifying. However, the fallout has left many questioning if hip-hop has finally gone too far and will never be able to turn back. A harsher reality emerged once the smoke cleared and the theories began to settle. There was more than one shooting involved. It was about the intricate web of long-simmering animosities, alliances, and beefs. Furthermore, 6ix9ine's girlfriend was more than a mere spectator in that web. She was the target. Tekashi had more than simply foes. They were in his armies. His
that
name
are
was
still
Poison.
bleeding.
Now the beef between the two rappers, it dates back to Keef's feature on Trippie Redd's song, I Kill People. He fired back, questioning if Keef's street cred is still intact.
In New York,
New York, and Los Angeles. His entire life was framed by his persistent trolling, his testimony in court, and his ridicule of his deceased competitors. The individuals closest to you wind up in the same line of fire. When you make a target out of yourself, consider the drill. Seen in Chicago, 6ix9ine found it amusing to make fun of deceased icons, such as Lil Jojo, as well as to criticize Chief Keef, Lil Reese, and the O-Block family. It was internet banter to him. It was life or death to them. Names engraved on gravestones are not to be played with. Wounds that are still bleeding are not something you laugh about. Tekashi's relationship with the 9 Trey Bloods collapsed spectacularly in New York. 6ix9ine's snitching on the very people he formerly displayed as protection was betrayal after betrayal. According to court testimony, Tekashi was not family to them. He was a payday. Loyalty vanished when the money stopped coming in and the heat became too great. He was shown running his mouth, taunting rivals, and acting like the same old rainbow-haired troll who believed he was untouchable on Instagram in the weeks before the release tape. The distinction in 2025, however, is that he was still protected in 2018 because the money was coming in. He had a whole gang of people who were willing to ride for him back then. The allegiance is gone now, and the money is less now with no shield to stop it. Every threat he has ever made and every bridge he has ever burned hangs over his head. Who is the first to suffer? Not Tekashi personally, as everyone is aware of his extreme caution. It's his closest friends and family, those without a security detail, those who are simple to locate, contact, and harm. You target the queen in the streets when you are unable to touch the king. Chief Keef was portrayed as a villain by the industry for many years. He was dubbed the drill brutality poster kid by the media. He was accused by politicians for the high murder rate in Chicago. However, the same industry chuckled when Tekashi made fun of him and taunted him. They conducted interviews with 6ix9ine and they played him on the radio. They put him on stages at festivals. They made it possible for him. They added fuel to the flames. Since blood has been shed, everyone wants to act foolish. Where's the label's accountability? From the websites that made money off of 6ix9ine's trolling, from the pundits who encouraged him despite the risks, quiet silence on the radio, because nobody wants to acknowledge that they helped convert a circus show into a capital punishment. Following the release of the video, Chief Keef did not disappear. He didn't make an announcement. He made no affirmations or denials. He did what he typically does instead. He spoke loudly. It began quietly. No names, no places, just a random Instagram story with the description, "Ain't nobody safe." It shows a fuzzy picture of a gun on a table, but what he meant was obvious to everybody. Another post a few hours later. This time, the film that went viral coincided with a clip showing him in the studio rapping casually over a beat while spewing bars. That, supporters claim to be true. Then the most unsettling flex of all occurred. Wearing a necklace that had a striking resemblance to the one thrown in the video, Keef was seen laughing with friends in Los Angeles. Just a smirk that screams, "Yeah, I know what you saw, and I don't care." Without any words or captions, this conduct was not new. Chief Keef famously tweeted, "It's sad cause that lil n ***** wanted to be just like us. #LMAO. ***. The remark was eventually removed, but the message was unmistakable. Following the murder of his rival Young Jojo in 2012, rather of lamenting catastrophe, Keef had a tendency to make fun of it. Keef did not immediately deny involvement in a shooting in New York in 2018, after 6ix9ine himself survived. Instead, he appeared unconcerned on social media, grinning and letting followers make their own Judgments. History was being repeated in 2025. There was no stillness or regret. When a young woman died, subliminal pictures, cryptic subtitles, and an attitude that challenged anyone were all part of the response. Chief Keef got exactly what he wanted from that loudmouth. He remained popular as a result. Fans continued to discuss about it. It maintained the idea that Chief Keef, the same kid from O Block who turned drill into a movement, is still deadly and untouchable. Not all of your Instagram posts, captions, and subliminal bars are live. It bounces across the culture, causing revenge and fostering paranoia, sustaining the violent cycle. 6ix9ine finds himself in a tight spot. The more Chief Keef screams, being outrolled by his fiercest rival is the height of humiliation for someone whose entire career has been based on trolling. According to sources, Tekashi is enraged, yelling at his group, and preparing his next move in an attempt to regain control of the story. However, he is no longer able to win this game, not when his adversary has transformed trolling into fear and quiet into strength. It is not even necessary for Chief Keef to admit. The court of public opinion has already determined that he did it. Therefore, he doesn't need to provide any proof. And that impression just gets strengthened with each post from a loudmouth. Is this indeed Keef's retaliation? Not only was Tekashi's girlfriend taken away, but his voice was also taken away, rendering the self-described troll king useless in the one space he ever controlled, the internet. It's functioning. If so, Keef's loudmouthing is keeping the fire going, even though the video may have sparked it. He's authoring a new chapter in hip-hop feuds, with each cryptic flex, cunning smirk, and blunt caption. One in which there is no distinction between virtual combat and actual tragedy. There is more to this than to rappers exchanging jabs online and off. A culture where every post seems like a bullet, where every bullet feels like a post, is at issue. It promotes loud mouths over quiet truth, violence over peace, and chaos over clarity. Tekashi is battling for relevancy rather than retribution. If Chief Keef has really perfected that cycle, and it may already be too late, based on how this story has developed. The alleged violence and the conspiracy theories around it are not the only things that make this case genuinely exceptional. Law enforcement organizations should have been outraged by this by now, but they have been completely silent. The eerie silence from police departments across several jurisdictions begs more concerns than the leaked tape itself, especially in a time when digital footprints can result in arrests within hours and social media posts can be used as evidence. Consider it. This case should be closed since we have what seems to be unmistakable video proof of a homicide, complete with location information, facial recognition potential, and a series of digital breadcrumbs. However, weeks have gone by with no press, conferences, arrests, or formal announcements from the LAPD, NYPD, or Chicago Police Department. It's almost synchronized how complete the silence is, when you take into account how fast law enforcement usually responds to high-profile rap cases. This tendency seems even more dubious. Within months of XXXTentacion's murder, arrests were made. Suspects were identified quickly after Pop Smoke was killed. The person who shot Nipsey Hussle was apprehended in a matter of days. However, radio silence is a case involving two of the most contentious individuals in hip-hop. According to some investigators, the quiet is the result of unclear jurisdiction. The victim had connections to a third city. The shooting allegedly took place in one, and the main suspect lives in another. The FBI and other federal agencies that usually oversee multi-state investigations involving public individuals have not publicly acknowledged their knowledge of the case. Law enforcement is purposefully keeping silent since the case involves classified monitoring techniques, according to a different theory that is gaining support among legal experts. According to 6ix9ine's own court records, federal agents have been using advanced digital tracking in recent years to keep tabs on well-known rappers, especially those who have a history of gang affiliations. His associates were extensively watched and monitored on social media, according to a federal complaint. The police may be reluctant to press charges that would reveal their tactics in court if the leaked material originated from federal monitoring, either directly or through parallel construction. The parallel construction technique enables authorities to create cases using just publicly available evidence after employing classified intelligence to direct investigations. However, they are left with no other option when the only proof is the actual classified surveillance. Let the case go unsolved or divulge state secrets. The technical quality of the released footage lends credence to this argument. Although classified as bystander footage, professionals in digital forensics have identified a number of
Usual restraint.
Everything, man. Everything.
How you feeling this morning?
Feeling real good. I'm tired of shit.
This collective silence.
Stabilization is too advanced for a cell phone. The sound quality is indicative of high-end recording gear. Most revealingly, the metadata digital fingerprints that indicate the time, location, and method of a video's creation has been thoroughly cleaned up. The typical citizen does not know how to remove metadata data professionally. It need for specific software and technical know-how, usually found in upscale private security companies or intelligence services. The fact that someone took the trouble to clean up the digital trace of the video indicates that they were either following operational security procedures or sought to protect the source. The hip-hop community's reaction, meanwhile, has been similarly perplexing. Usually, industry figures quickly demand de-escalation, unity, and peace. When violence breaks out between well-known artists, statements are released by record labels. Orders to cease and desist are issued by management firms. Venues for concerts can increase security or postpone performances completely. Here, none of it has occurred. Notably, major labels that represent musicians with ties to both 6ix9ine and Chief Keef have said nothing. Only the most minimal coverage has been published by industry magazines that often thrive on controversy. The topic has been handled with uncommon delicacy, even by gossip blogs that are notorious for sensationalizing everything. The general lack of response implies that industry insiders are aware of information that the general public is unaware of. The orchestrated silence is nearly as striking as the video itself. Whether it's a warning from law police, a threat from a powerful lawyer, or just the realization that this topic is too risky to handle, the potential that this silence marks a new stage in the handling of violent crimes involving celebrities is the most unsettling. Perhaps some cases are considered too delicate for the general audience to watch in a time where every dispute becomes content and every tragedy becomes a trend. Situations in which the public's right to know is outweighed by the risk of international shame, civil upheaval, or copycat violence. We're seeing more than simply the aftermath of a shooting, if that's the case. It marks the beginning of a shadow justice system in which some offenses are handled covertly, out of sight of cameras and courtrooms, and the decisions made are based on classified factors rather than open accountability. Chief Keef's continued freedom to travel, post cryptic stuff, and appear in public without fear of imprisonment would be explained by this perspective. That would account for 6ix9ine's seeming disappearance from social media in spite of his propensity for it. It would also explain why two of the most controversial individuals in hip-hop have both become unusually quiet, just as their conflict should have reached its most fiery peak. The ramifications go well beyond this particular instance. What does it mean for justice if law enforcement is using classified criteria to choose which celebrity offenses to prosecute? What does it mean for the free press if the music industry is orchestrating silence around specific stories? What does it mean for truth itself if surveillance film may be leaked and altered to suit unidentified goals? Analyzing grainy video frames or making connections between social media posts won't provide answers to these issues. They demand openness from organizations that appear committed to working behind closed doors. The leaked footage will continue to be what it has been, until that transparency, if it ever materializes, occurs. Not proof of what actually occurred, but evidence of how little we are permitted to know about the true consequences of celebrities. Crossing boundaries that others have secretly set, no one connected to this alleged crime is being protected by the silence. It is defending a system that has determined that certain facts are too risky for democracy. Thank you for viewing. Examine the other cards displayed on the screen.